Let's talk about generosity. Come with me now and join me on Christmas morning. Isn't it true that nothing makes a Christmas morning more magical than small children with their look of wonder and anticipation, their squeals of delight and surprise? Gift giving on Christmas morning with kids who are young make it one of the most memorable moments of the year. But let me ask you this question. Who really enjoys it most? The child receiving or the adult giving? Now, for most of us, we've been on both sides of that equation, and I think we would all agree, while receiving the gifts are delightful, being on the giving side, that much more fun. And yet, what child would ever believe their parent who said, hey, you think you're enjoying this now? Wait until you get to be on our side. Wait to see how much more fun you have giving gifts to your kids. There's no way that that child they can't embrace it. They can't receive it. They can't imagine what that would be like. So it's entirely counterintuitive when Jesus said it's more blessed to be the giver than the receiver. So consider these three thoughts regarding generosity. Number one, we can only know experientially the truth of Jesus' words about giving and receiving by jumping into the giving side of the equation. We won't know it experientially. It will sound aspirational until we actually jump in. Such is the way of all things that we're invited into in faith. Everything He invites us into requires a step of faith to take. And the step of faith is our saying, I'm going to do this because you said it, even though I don't get it, I don't see it. It's not my reality yet. It's a bit like when Jesus says that as we've been forgiven, we are to forgive others. Well, that's hard because we've all been wounded, we've been hurt, we carry those things around. And when we become a Jesus follower and we are forgiven much, as we then take that step to begin to forgive those who've hurt us, that is hard, and there's nothing innate in us that wants to do it without that call of faith, to take a step of faith and do it. And yet, as we do that, we begin to experience that freedom that comes by following Him, taking that step of faith and realizing, wow, this wasn't just for them, this was as much for me as for anybody else. So it is with every step of faith as a believer. And so when Jesus says it's more blessed to be a giver than a receiver, being a receiver is awesome. But the only way we get to experience the joy of that is by jumping into the giving side of the equation by faith. Number two, we can grow in our generosity. I love the words of Isaiah, who said, a generous person devises generous things. I love that. What might we devise personally, collectively? What might God be stirring in you to devise of generous things that you might do in this new year? Here's another great verse in Isaiah. It says, blessed are you who sow beside all waters. What new waters might God want you to sow in? Scott Tomtaney is a new lifer whose father mentored him with this idea that our spiritual impact grows as we say yes to the things of God. What new things might God be stirring in you, because we can grow in our generosity? And number three, we can lean more into generosity without fear for our own well-being. We can trust the promise that says a generous person will prosper. The person who refreshes others will themselves be refreshed. We can just trust that. I love what Pastor Wendell Smith said, the late Pastor Wendell Smith. He said, God will get more to us if He can get more through us. Let's allow more of God's generosity to flow through us to a thirsty world.